So lately I've been having trouble with my Mini X. Turns out we have this, it's like a battery disconnect switch, and it hasn't been working right. I mean, it should be on, off, on, off, on, off. But something's not lining up in it right, and it's hit and miss on how we get power to the machine. But I carefully picked this shot angle to see the key, the gauges, and that switch. And when you turn this key on, see, now we have power. But see how when I jiggle this, we don't have power? And when you go to start this thing, see how it shut off? And you have to like kind of push down on it, and then you'll get a little bit of a crank. Well, that isn't satisfactory. We want that changed. So I'm gonna see what I can do with the switch to make it better. I'm gonna take a peek through here by taking this drink holder slash phone holder out of here and see what is behind the switch. I want to make sure that I'm not pulling live leads out of here. The other alternative is to disconnect the battery, which on this machine, I'm going to be making a modification in a future video on the Mini Excavator stuff playlist. To get to the battery, you literally have to take all the bolts out that you see here, this cover off. You have to actually unhook where the canopy attaches to get the floor out. That whole floor has to be pulled out, and the battery is right here. And it is a royal pain to get down through here, so I'm going to make some kind of a trap door so that you can access all that under there. But that's in a later video, so subscribe to stay in the loop. Okay, let's get this thing out of here. And that should just pop right out of here. It's like caught by, okay. Yeah, I got some rust starting here, and I have to address that. So, underneath here, I put the camera down in, we have the bottom of the switch. And it turns out that these are the negative battery terminals that are on here, so unless you get between them with the key on, they're not going to pose any threat electrically. So there's that. The switch is held on with these stainless 5mm Allen heads, and of course they have a 10mm nut on the back side. So, and we're going to have to determine if we need to replace that switch or repair the one that's here. Hopefully we can repair the one that's here. Get a look at what we're battling underneath. It's a lock washer, or a locking nut, so it has that nylon head in it to keep it from backing out, which is good. Get this other one out. Be sure to make sure that your key is off when you go to do this. And now let's see if we can get this out of here without too much messing around. Oh, isn't that nice? Okay, so it turns out to get this out of here, I had to bend the little terminals down, and look what I found here. Well, that's not good. And I'm wondering if that might be our entire problem. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to loosen this all the way up. And of course I dropped that right down inside the machine. I found it. Yeah, don't do that. So I'm going to take this other side off. Remember to keep your key off while you're doing this. If you can get to your battery, you're better off to remove the terminals just to be extra safe. And let's put them somewhere where they won't get lost, like up on the seat. So I don't like the way they even wired these to begin with, or the way they taped these up, because half your mating surface is actually covered by tape. I don't like that stuff being under those nuts. These nuts, we'll call them. So another thing I found is on the switch itself, these weren't secured down. If that's jammed with each other, you're relying on the little bit of that play in the nut. If that makes any sense to you. and the stud itself. So I'm going to tighten this down just snug. You don't want to break the housing. And just a little bit beyond hand tight on both sides so that these are nice and secure. And I'm going to test these with a meter here in a second. Set our meter to ohms. Set it here where you can see. See, there's still something going on in this switch. That shouldn't break that easy. So I don't know if I can take this switch apart or not, or just order a new one and call her a day. Let me loosen these all up. Spin everything off. Let's see if the back comes off of this. So I think it has to come out this direction, and it also appears to be crimped right here on these eyelets. Yep, I think she's a sealed unit. I'd love to get in there and get that thing apart, but will it ever go back together if I do that? So it turns out the top is metal, and I mean, I'm going to get a bigger screwdriver and just try to pry it around this little grommet looking thing. Maybe drill that out. Drilling it out might be the easier way. I mean, I got to go order a new switch nonetheless, so maybe I could repair this one. If I can get this, if I don't break anything, that should still hold together, maybe with a rubber grommet on there or something. And at least I'll be able to pull it apart in order to clean it. So I'm gonna just kiss that with a drill bit and hopefully just get that little, I think that's like a rolled edge that's keeping the plastic in. We want to go real slow. Oh, so yeah, that's very, very soft metal. And it's exactly as I suspected. That that drill bit is pretty aggressive on there for taking that top, that little roll off of there. And the vise doesn't want to hold this very securely. So there's that too we have going on. I'm gonna go gentle. Alright, well that did it anyhow, but it spun the whole switch around. Let's see if we could do the same thing on the other side, maybe be a little bit smarter about it. Okay, so I think the way to do this is to put it in the vise this way, and you can get a little bit better bite on it, and then we're going to try drilling it this way. I should do this in a drill press so it doesn't try to suck the bit through, but we're not that smart here. And that's all you do to get that out of there. We might be able to make this thing work yet. Let's take it to the bench here. So let's take this apart now. And look at the corrosion in here. Oh, that's why it didn't want to work. So this is destined to be junk anyhow if you have stuff like that going on. But I'm going to try to fix this and put it back in, see if we can make it work. I mean, look at this stud. Not me, this stud. All that corrosion on there. This one doesn't look bad. But these will actually pull out of here, and we can buff them up a little bit. Now this part here that actually makes contact on them, look how bad that is. All that corrosion on there. I have grease to put in here, and we can make this, well, kind of like new. I got other plans for this part here. I think we're going to have to make some spacer washers so it doesn't crush the housing. but I think we can make this thing work. All right, so lock this down in the vise, and I'm not biting down on the threads too much, just enough to keep it in place while we buff it. I'm gonna start out with a wire brush. Now, comparing these, you can see one side is almost unharmed, the other side harmed. I am going to take a fine piece of sandpaper. I'm going to dress both of them up a little bit. Next, I'm going to lock this back in here. All that frosty corrosion in there. A couple strokes with this fine emery paper, and we're good to go. You see what I just seen there? That thing just rotates. So we're going to want it to be that way. Okay, I guess it's not going to click unless it goes into that rectangular sector. Okay, so I think we're going to be all right. There's a little rubber seal in the center there, I noticed. That hourglass shaped seal. So I have the Dow Corning. It's an electrical insulating compound. It has silicone in it, and it's the same stuff that you actually get with your headlights and stuff for the connections on there. I would recommend maybe using some of that inside if you have to do this kind of a thing. And I'm gonna put it on these springs that are corroding, and I'm just gonna smudge it around in here and get it all over the electrical mating surfaces, and that should keep them from corroding. But I'm also going to get down underneath and put a nice glob of it, you know, into that spring there, and just kind of finger it around a little bit. See, there's what's actually going on when you turn the thing. It's letting this go up and down. It's not turning it. So as long as that's lined up with the contacts, it should allow a good electrical connection. We want to keep as much moisture out of here as we can, and that is why I'm putting excessive amounts of this down in here. That's going to help lubricate the switch itself. But boy, that's feeling so much better right now. So while I have some residual amount of that electrical insulating compound on my hands, I'm gonna just kind of go over this little gasket that's inside there. So we have that little chamber that seals it against. That is actually where we want to keep the water out. Like this outer part, I don't think it's gonna even come into play. We just want to get it sealed around that part. I think this is gonna work. And I'm gonna put a little bit of that on top of these buttons here to keep them from corroding any further. I'm going to even put some on the threads and all the mating surfaces on there. This stuff isn't going to hurt anything in there. It won't break plastics down. And of course, that's just going to go down back inside here. They have those little shoulders to keep the square heads from rotating. And let's get our other one the same way. Little bit of smuts on there. Put a liberal amount, but not a libtard amount, if you know what I mean. All right. So, put our stud back in. I'm gonna lube our gasket up with this stuff, actually. Put a little bit of that on here. And coat that surface up real good. Lube our gasket up. Stick our gasket down on it. And the tightness of the bolts it's gonna actually make that seal up against that surface. Let's put a little bit on top here. Get it smeared around and take it out and see if we can get that thing to work. I'm going to put a little bit more of this electrical insulating compound on the screw threads because it will never hurt. Help keep everything sealed in there. We got a washer right against the housing, and that's actually going to crush that rubber seal on the inside. Get everything lined up before we tighten it. We don't want them like scary tight. And I think we're good there. So let's put it on. And we're gonna have to see what the other side wants in order to go into that little slot. So that's snug. That fits nice. And this one, buddy just went by on a bike. Having the right wrench for these might be a little easier than this little crescent too. But we got her. Now that should go right down in with a little wrestling. Oh, practically put itself in. So one last look at these, make sure that everything looks copacetic. Make sure that our little hourglass shaped gasket is stuck nicely in to the top. And everything looks like it's good that way, like shown. See if I can drop the nut underneath with my bad thumb. And that's almost a definite, but you know what a nut looks like and you know how that should probably go underneath. So I'm gonna just shut you off for a minute. And there we go. Let's get our cup holder in and we'll be ready to try it. Notice I drilled some holes in the bottom of this cup hole and the phone holder. They don't come with that. Guess what happens when it rains and they get leaves in them and stuff? You get what I call leaf stew. And all right, so we have our key here. And of course we got nothing this way. Now let's turn our power switch to on. And boom, instantly we have our lights. I can hear the fan running for the hydraulic cooling, and we got good ignition. Now let's make sure it goes off, on, off, on. When you jiggle it, we're not losing any voltage unless you pull up, which inherently just disconnects that switch. I think we're all right here. Off, on, headlights, headlights.
I never thought that this video could get so in-depth or that I would get so long-winded about just a simple cutoff switch. Then I figured there's a lot of viewers who don't fiddle with electrical things. I argued with myself about what to keep and what to get rid of. And this video still went on for over 15 minutes. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you want to see more mini excavator stuff, there's an ever-growing playlist with nothing but videos about mini excavators and mini excavator accessories. Visit my Amazon store if you want to purchase items used in this video and let me know if they're not. Click the thumbs up and consider subscribing if you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.